Good day, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Today we have an article from Inverse.com titled 7 Realistic Ways the Death Star Could Return in Star Wars 9, Ranked. So, it's dated for August 13th, 2019. If you like this kind of content, consider subscribing. Helps out the channel a lot. So let's get into it. The ability to destroy a planet may be insignificant next to the power of the Force, but that hasn't stopped the planet-killing Death Star from playing a role in its vast majority of Star Wars movies. With Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker less than 6 months away, it looks like the Death Star is back. Here's a very brief history of how much the Death Star matters to Star Wars movies, and 7 possible ways some version of the evil ball of doom could return. After The Rise of Skywalker hits theaters in December, there will be 11 legit canonical Star Wars movies in the epic saga, and guess what? Of those 11 films, a staggering 9 Star Wars movies either features a Death Star outright, or depicts and mentions a version of the Death Star in some way, shape, or form. Only The Phantom Menace and Solo managing to wriggle off the Death Star hook. As for the other films, we see a Death Star hologram in Attack of the Clones, witness its early construction in Revenge of the Sith, see its completion in Rogue One, cheer for its destruction in A New Hope, hear the Emperor talking about the destruction in The Empire Strikes Back, scratch our heads as the Rebels take down a half-completed Death Star in Return of the Jedi, shrug our shoulders at Starkiller Base, which also features several mentions and one hologram of the Death Star in The Force Awakens, and finally, in a movie that shouldn't have any Death Star references, The Last Jedi informs us that the big laser on Crate is in fact Death Star tech. Now, based on the footage and the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker, the final film in the epic Skywalker saga does in fact have some kind of Death Star in it. Should this be called the Star Walker saga? Maybe we should consider all the Star Wars movies up to this point the Death Star saga. Here's the shot in the Rise of Skywalker trailer that pretty much solidifies some version of the Death Star is back. But how? Here are the options, ranked from least likely to most likely. Number 7. That's not the Death Star. Look, I know it's supposed to look like the Death Star wreckage in the trailer. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm also not saying we're all suddenly wrong either. In fact, I think we're meant to think it is the Death Star. And I think Rey, Finn, and Poe think it's the Death Star too. The idea here is that they are being deceived by some kind of dark side of the Force trick. This is a little like wondering what would happen if Kylo Ren or the ghost of Palpatine somehow borrowed the Reality Stone from Thanos in Avengers Infinity War. I mean, if Luke can make Kylo Ren think he's on the planet Crate when he's really not, what's to stop Palpatine making Rey and her buddies hallucinate an entire Death Star? Number 6. There's more than one Death Star. One explanation for the Death Star wreckage is that it literally is only one piece of puzzle that consists of multiple Death Stars. It's possible this Death Star isn't the only Death Star in the new movie, but just one of many that are either being constructed or, as seems pretty obvious, reconstructed. Number 5. The wreckage in the trailer is a different Death Star than the ones we know. Also, it's old. The Death Star we see in the trailer might be an old Death Star, but that doesn't mean its wreckage is from one of the 2 Death Stars we've seen. After all, 3 decades passed between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, which means the Empire, or somebody else, could have built a 3rd Death Star, and that Death Star was disabled and fell onto this planet. So for the audience, this Death Star would be new, but for the characters, it might be old. Number 4. It's an old Death Star prototype. In the old Star Wars Expanded Universe, specifically the book Jedi Search, it was revealed that the Death Star prototype was built in the middle of a bunch of black holes called the Maul Installation. This Death Star didn't really have anything but the skeleton of a sphere and that famous giant super laser. Rey, Finn, and Poe could be looking at something like that, an incomplete prototype of the Death Star. In this scenario, it only looks old and busted because it's been sitting on the planet for 30 years. Number 3. It's actually a new Death Star built by the Rebels. One explanation that hasn't really been floated is one the most likely. This could just be a new Death Star that is being built in secret. Would that be exactly like Return of the Jedi? Well, maybe. But if the new Death Star wasn't being built by the bad guys, but instead the Resistance. There are tons of rumors suggesting an unused plotline from The Force Awakens involved Leia building a super weapon for the good guys, which is why the New Republic government cut ties with her in the first place. So Rey, Finn, and Poe looking at their Death Star? Number 2. Pieces of the first Death Star from A New Hope are found on Yavin 4. After Luke Skywalker destroyed the first Death Star in the original Star Wars movie, it pretty much looks like it's blown to bits. That extra shockwave in the special edition adds to this feeling. But what this very prominent theory presupposes is maybe huge chunks of it flew down and landed on the jungle moon of Yavin 4. The reason this theory is so plausible is mostly because it seems like it would satisfy a huge nostalgia play in the film. After all, Yavin 4 is where the first Star Wars movie ended. Returning there would make a lot of people happy. Number 1. Pieces of the second Death Star from Return of the Jedi are found on the forest moon of Endor. Same as above, only with the second Death Star and the forest moon of Endor. You know, otherwise known as Ewok Land. This theory presents the exact same problem as Yavin 4 theory so far, as it really looks like Lando takes out the whole Death Star 2 in the climax of Return of the Jedi. So, same thing as above, this theory suggests that Rise of Skywalker will retcon that little bit and have a big chunk of the Death Star land on Endor. From a nostalgia point of view, I'm ranking this one slightly higher for one reason only. If you're going to wrap up the entire 9-part saga and sort of dip your cap in all the Star Wars in one movie, I think we're entitled to see some goddamn Ewoks. So, Star Wars Episode 9, Where's My Goddamn Ewoks? I mean, The Rise of Skywalker is out in theaters December 20th, 2019. So what do you think about these different scenarios that the Death Star can return in Rise of Skywalker? Which one would you think is the most realistic out of all those? Or do you have another theory of how it would come about? Let me know in the comment section. I don't know. I kind of like the Resistance is actually building their own. I think that'd be kind of cool. So that I'm leaning towards 3, but let me know what you think. All right. So as always, take care and have an awesome day.